Hello and welcome to a demonstration of the seam inspection tool within Imageflow. The seam inspection tool checks the quality of horizontal seams in the product while verifying that the distance between each seam is within the expected tolerance. In this video, I'll show you how to both configure the tool in Tool Manager and operate the tool in Imageflow runtime. So this is a demonstration of how to use the seam inspection tool in the runtime interface. As you can see in the current directory, there is a number of frames, each with a seam present in them. Now each of these seams is approximately 3,000 meters from each other, and there is one frame where the interval is not at the 3,000 millimeters level. So hopefully the seam inspection tool should find this interval as being unacceptable and display a defect in the defect list on the right hand side. So now if I change from view mode to detect mode, it should find which frame has the bad interval and display it as it did there. So it should be a constant, as it's one frame in a directory, it should be constantly coming up. And now if I change the interval to something that would be wrong, from 3,000 millimeters to say 1,000 millimeters, there should be an error on every frame. Yeah, as in it is not finding the seams at that interval. So I can change it back now to 3,000. And while the seam inspection is running, I can also do some surface inspection for defects on top of the seam inspection. So now it should be finding defects on top of the web on all frames, and then find the bad interval on the one frame with the seams at an incorrect position. So this is the interface for configuring the seam inspection tool in Tool Manager. So there are a number of parameters you can choose to edit. The run flags are the modes in which this tool will run if selected. The matching threshold is how closely detected seams must match the template seam in order to be acceptable. The filter width is the width of the detection box which the seam is detected in. The template height is the height of the detection box. The horizontal tracing vertical shift tolerance is the allowable vertical variance in pixels. This enables the allowable seam to not be completely horizontally straight to be deemed acceptable. And the detection window position on the web is where the detection box is placed along the web. So a value of 50% would mean that the detection box is placed halfway across the web. The graphical representation at the bottom here is an indication of how good the seam chosen is and how good a template it will make. The lower values indicate a better seam template. So if I were to select a random point here, there'd be a bad seam, but if I select here, then it's telling me that's a strong seam and it'll be a decent template. The pass-fail conditions are the interval and the interval tolerance. So the interval is the expected distance between seams, and the interval tolerance is the how much the seam can vary either side of the interval to be still deemed acceptable. The intact seam checkbox indicates that the entire horizontal axis of the seam is intact and is acceptable. And save images of broken sections indicates when there's a broken seam found that it will save the image to the hard disk. Thanks for listening to this demonstration.